Alright, so we're checking out another 5-inch build in this video. So this is the Camera Butter Cinema 1 frame, and this is the one with the 5-inch arms. The frame does come in a 7 and 8-inch arm version as well. I think it's very similar in terms of the frame design and implementation. They also sent along their new Halo motor. This one here is 1800 kV. Also comes in 2450 kV. And yeah, it's a Camera Butter motor. I believe the stator size is 2406. It weighs 29 grams without the wires, and mine with the wires was about 34.5 grams. The bare frame weight, just the screws, no parts on it, just the frame assembled, for me was around 111 grams. I don't have the other two versions, so I don't know what those weigh. I think they might be on their product page if you could check out the link in the description. These 3D printed parts are available on Thingiverse, so the links to them are on the product page for the frame. So if you go to the product page for the frame, link in the description, halfway down will be a bunch of links to various 3D printed parts like the camera mounts, the GoPro mounts, and some other mounts, things that you might want to print out for this frame. So the frame itself is pretty basic in terms of what it looks like in terms of like how it compares to other 5-inch frames, with one fairly important exception, which I'll talk about here momentarily. So you have 5mm arms, 2mm bottom plates here and top plate, and the bottom plate is staggered. So this bottom plate here goes above the arms on the back side here where the video transmitter is, and then this second part of the bottom plate goes from the middle part of where the arms are sandwiched to the front, and that's below. So you can see how this is higher up and this is lower. So that's how this frame is designed. You have basically M3 standoffs here, M3 screws. On the bottom here you have a 20x20 mount here, so I mounted the video transmitter in the back here. It's just a HGRC Zeus video transmitter. Also in the front you have a 20x20 mounting point for, I guess you put a split camera or something like that there. I'm not really sure, I didn't use that. And then in the center for your stack, you have 20x20 and 30x30 holes for mounting. For me, my build, I just used a Foxeer 20x20 stack, so I'll put those parts down below. Pretty basic build, really. So put the stack in there, mounted the motors, cut the wires, solder on the motor wires to the 4-in-1 flight controller, or 4-in-1 ESC, and then I connected up the video transmitter to the flight controller and then the receiver to the flight controller. So it's a pretty standard build, as well as the cable for the camera, and I'm using the Caddx Ratel for the camera. And then you have a Foxeer antenna in the back here with the antenna mount, and you have a UFL to SMA connector here for the video transmitter. Now, the big thing that's different about this frame is there's this centerpiece here that mounts all the arms in the center here and prevents the arms from twisting. You do have 2 screws to remove the arms, but the big thing here is you can take this arm out and flip it over. So if you flip over the arm, it turns the front part of this arm here from a which is basically like a True X style frame or Hybrid X to a Deadcat style. So the arm, when you flip it over, the arm will have the motor actually come out a little bit further, and it'll actually move the motor to point to about here, so that it'll move it back out of the camera view. So I probably should have done that, because my whole intention of this is called a Cinema 1 frame, is to just fly it cinematically. I wasn't really going to do any freestyle with this. This was my intention from the beginning. So after I built it, I probably should have just flipped the arm over, but I got busy and I forgot to do that. So I just built it as the frame came to me. This frame actually came to me assembled. Most people will have to assemble it themselves, so I didn't flip the arm over to get that Deadcat style, to get the prop out of view. The flight characteristics are going to be a little bit different if you're going to be doing freestyle on the Deadcat style arm orientations, so keep it in mind. So if you're primarily going to get this frame for freestyle, you probably want to have the arms in the True X configuration like this instead of the Deadcat configuration. But yeah, this little piece here, this carbon piece, and the way the frame's designed, allowing you to flip the arm over, is pretty ingenious. And so you can basically get two different styles of frames in one, and you can switch back and forth. So obviously all you have to do is remove the arm. I have to obviously remove the tape here, unscrew the motors, flip the arm over, put it back in, and then tape your motor wires back down again, screw back on your motor, and then you have a Deadcat style frame. Okay, so this is how much mine weighs, my particular build. It's about 369 grams. So with these 1800 kV motors, I flew mine on 6S. I'm using a 6S 1300, which is the typical size for a 5-inch. And they're coming in now at 611 grams, and then I flew mine with a Hero 8. That's the camera mount that I got. So total of all up flying weight about 738 grams, which is about average for a 5-inch build. And on this larger 2406 motor, which has plenty of power, it's actually pretty floaty. But you'll see in the flight demo that I got pretty good results in terms of low end throttle control. So you'll see that at the end of the video at the flight footage. What I wanted to see with this sort of wider motor, 24 millimeters, how much more control and responsiveness on the low end I was getting, and I would say it's pretty good for this size. I've flown some 2407 and 2408 motors before, and the low end is kind of similar in that class, but that's a heavier motor than this 2406. The motor itself, it's pretty standard for what you get these days. You get N52 curved magnets inside here. It's a very well constructed, nice solid copper wire in there. Really nothing amazing about the motor, or nothing really bad about the motor. It's pretty standard for the kind of quality of motor you get these days, and I would say it reminds me a lot of like a iFlight motor, maybe like a T-motor. I'm not really sure who makes this, but it's really nothing bad to say about the motor. The motor, it seems to be very well constructed, good bearings. I haven't had any problems with it, and it doesn't sound weird or anything like that. Now, one thing to note is on the flight demo, I did put the tune that they recommended for this setup here, for this motor and this 5-inch frame. I think it was a pretty good tune. It has a little bit of oscillation on this prop. This is a new prop I'm trying out. This is from Foxeer. It's like the Nepal V2 or something like that. I think a different prop might be better than this shape here. Probably like an HQ or like a gem fan, like a standard gem fan that would work for a 24 size motor. I think would be better than this prop. Nothing really bad about this prop. It's just I think I got a little bit of oscillations on mid to like 75% throttle on this setup. It wasn't bad or anything like that, but just something I heard. Just something I noticed. You're probably not going to see it in the flight footage at all, but just something I wanted to make note on the tune that they sent me. I didn't do any other tuning other than what they recommended, and they just sent me a PID tune, and I just used that. Anyway, just go ahead and get right into the flight footage here. My narrated flight's pretty long. It's like 6 or 7 minutes, so you get plenty of flight time on this setup, on this 6S here, if you're mainly flying this cinematically. So, this is a pretty good size for a 5-inch. If you want to fly like longer flights and get like smooth footage, cinematic type footage with your GoPro, check out this frame and these motors. Other than that, it's a pretty standard 5-inch build. I've done many of these on my channel before, so that's why I'm not really going into every little detail on these builds. If you want to see previous builds, there's a playlist I'll put down in the video description of previous quadcopter builds I've done. You can check out those from maybe like 2 years ago, and I have more details on those builds in those videos. Okay, here's the flight footage. I'll talk to you later. All right, so just getting a feel here. I'm using a tune that they recommended. And yeah, 5-inch quads are pretty loud. A little bit of oscillation at the top end or mid throttle. But overall, it looks pretty smooth. A little bit of oscillation there. I'm not mainly looking at this as a freestyler, although you can definitely freestyle this for sure. More interested in how this thing cruises. A couple of flippy floppies. I haven't done anything special with ESCs either. Yeah. It does look pretty smooth overall. Let's see how good the low throttle control is at the ground. See how smooth I can get that video to come out. This is probably the main use case, I think, for these motors and this frame. And yeah, I would probably go with the Deadcat arrangement instead of the Truex arrangement that I have right next, and you'll probably not see as much of the props in view. Yeah, you can hear a little bit of oscillation. Perhaps could be the props I'm using. And flying analog again. Hard to see a lot of stuff. All right, see how this does when I'm trying to fly slow. A little bit of bobble at the bottom of the throttle. Let's see if I can try to maintain this nice and steady. And let's get closer to the flowers here. So it's not bad. Has pretty decent control at the bottom of the throttle. So if you need to capture some more cinematic type stuff, it's an okay motor for that, I think. Already at about 4 minutes of flight time. I'm not doing any acro or freestyle on this. It's not my intention for this video. I'm sure this frame is more than capable of plenty of freestyle tricks. But this is, kind of being marketed as a more of a cinematic type of drone, 5-inch, maybe perhaps a little bit longer flight time with these 6S 1800 kV motors. I am flying a 6S 1300 milliamp hour battery. And flight time is pretty good. I don't want to back into that tree. Yeah, so pretty good responsiveness. Not a lot of wind. You can see a little bit of wind there with the flowers moving around. But yeah, so far so good. Pretty good control. Some fast or medium speed forward flight right here at the end of the battery. Low to the ground. Yeah, still a little bit of bobbling. I think in the tune I would recommended a little bit of throttle expo. I don't think this has that in the tune they sent me. So a little bit of throttle expo will help. It's definitely better than like a 2207 motor for sure. And these are going to be this wider stator. I think it's like a 24 millimeter motor, more efficient. We're about 6 minutes, so gonna end the flight here. Let me know what you guys think.